At the beginning, we discussed how to account if an intangible asset acquired from a third party. For example, you can purchase someone else's brand, then how to treat when you acquire an intangible assets, or else you can acquire an intangible asset by way of a business combination. There also we discuss how to recognize and treat them. Or else sometime you may be granted with an intangible asset from a third party. Let's say government granted you a license, then how to treat intangible asset in a scenario like that. Then our main concern is right how to treat and for an intangible asset which is generated internally, which is built up internally, which is developed internally. It is something like you can purchase a building from a third party, then bank credit, building asset account debit. At the same time, you can, instead of buying this building asset, you can construct a building by yourself. Similarly, you can purchase or acquire an intangible asset from a third party, or you can not build, we can generate intangible asset internally. So that is the meaning of internally generated intangible asset. That means you are constructing or build or develop an intangible asset by yourself. So the term ideally comes for with intangible asset is not construct or develop, it is generated. So we were discussing how to treat um, intangible asset which is internally generated. Okay, here our main concern is how to account for research and development expenses with respect to a particular uh, research and development cost you incurred uh, relating to generating of intangible asset. Unlike constructing of a building, if you start constructing a building from the very stage starting point, all the cost you incurred in constructing the building, you can keep debiting to the building under construction account. Site preparation cost, then foundation cost, laying the foundation cost, then constructing your walls and plastering, roofing, all these costs you can keep debiting the right building account, because we are sure our building is constructed at the end of the particular planned period. Right, but when you start constructing or developing or generating some intangible asset like a production process, production formula, or any intangible asset, we cannot start debiting the relevant expenses you incurred from the beginning, because we are not sure whether our intangible asset would be successful or not, whether our intangible asset would be capable of generating future economic benefits. So accordingly, during the generating this intangible asset phase, we can identify clearly two different stages. Initially, you need to do some research, right? The research means original and planned investigation to acquire a new knowledge. So during this research phase, you are incurring cost. And we discussed last week, you cannot debit your intangible asset account uh, uh, with the cost you incurred during the research phase. Research phase the all the cost you incurred, bank credit lamai, you need to charge to P&L. You don't create an asset, because we are not sure whether our research would be successful or not. So initial stage of the uh, generating process of intangible asset, during the research stage, all costs you incur, you cannot debit to intangible asset account. You need to debit P&L, charge P&L. It's a must. So if entity incurred any cost during the research phase, bank credit, P&L debit. Then let's say as a result of your research, you found something valuable, some invention, right? You found something new, which can be, right? You found some new knowledge, new thing to the society, new knowledge to the um, human beings. So you can then make use of this knowledge to deliver some tangible output and good or service to the society. So once you identified or invented the particular knowledge, then you can start use of that knowledge to develop a product, to convert, to transform that knowledge into product which can generate future benefit. Then we start development phase, right? So intangible asset initially passes research phase. All the cost you incur, you need to charge to PNL. That means you can't generate format intangible asset. Once you found new thing, once you invented new knowledge, then you can start developing a product concept, right? So then you reach to development stage. Even during the development stage, you cannot debit the cost you incurred for the intangible asset, right? Development phase, right? You right development phase also you are incurring cost. You cannot debit your intangible asset right with the cost you incur during the development phase until six criteria are satisfied. There are six criteria. All the six criteria should be satisfied to start debiting your intangible asset account. So that's what we discussed last night, right? Okay. Then, so this what the summary. Research phase, all the costs, PNL debit, PN charge to PNL, PNL will be suffered, no asset recognized. Development phase, you can start debiting your intangible asset when all the relevant criteria are satisfied, right? So accordingly, then we need to identify when to start. So when to start debiting your intangible asset. Mathavan, you need to start debiting your intangible asset account with the cost you incurred when all the criteria are satisfied. There are six criteria, right? Six criterions there. You just satisfy one criteria. No, still keep debiting the PNL. Two criteria, still keep debiting the PNL. Once you satisfied all the criteria, right? From that date, you can start debiting your intangible asset. So your intangible asset will be generated from the date all the criteria are satisfied during the development phase, right? Then other important thing, let's say for a particular research project, initially you pass the research phase, then development phase you pass certain period till all the criteria satisfied. During this period, you have incurred research cost, development cost, all those costs we have already charged to PNL. Now, once the development was successful, once all the criteria are satisfied, Lamai, you cannot reverse the PNL and bring back those costs to asset account, right? It is not allowed. Again, what we have written off to the PNL during the research period, what we have charged to PNL during the development period, up to the point all the criteria satisfied, all those costs you have already debited to PNL. They cannot be reversed and take back to the intangible asset, right? That's what standard says. So these are the right. Other important thing, right? Internally, company can develop their goodwill. Company over the period, company develop goodwill. And my goodwill is an intangible asset. But I told you at the beginning, entity's own goodwill cannot be recognized as an internally generated asset. So entity's own goodwill not considered as an internally generated intangible asset, so that you cannot recognize your own goodwill as an asset, right? The following internally generated intangible assets are specifically excluded from recognition as per LCase 38. Total amount, right? For the goodwill, you don't pass research process, development process, right? Goodwill, your own goodwill, your business own goodwill, not recognized as an intangible asset, right? If you have any goodwill in your balance sheet, that goodwill must have been acquired from some other business by way of business acquisition, right? So your own goodwill not recognized in your uh, financial statement. Second one, brand. Your own brand. You can sell your brand to outsiders, but it is prohibited. It is not allowed to recognize your own brand as an asset. So accordingly, let's say Rosel Lanka, let's say John Keys, so these companies, so Haley's, they have Singer, they have their valuable brands. So they cannot recognize their goodwill in their own financial statement. They cannot recognize their own brand in their financial statement, even if they can sell brand, it is not allowed, right? So some other types of intangible assets are there. They are not. You are not allowed to recognize in your financial statements as intangible assets you generated by yourself. Not allowed. But you may recognize intangible assets like production process, production formula, product, right? New product concept you develop. So those, right, those kind of intangible asset is allowed to recognize. Right? Again, research development process stages pass करला वाला किसी हम production process का invent कर रहा develop कराना, you can recognize, right, that intangible asset as an internally generated intangible asset. As accounting and finance student, keep in your mind your own goodwill, your own brands, right, and other these kind of mastheads and publishing titles, customer list. So you know your customer base, your customer names, address, and their contacts. You can sometimes sell. Some tuition masters sell their customer students database to some other people. Email email accounts can be sold to other parties subject to some privacy agreements, right? Subject to the restriction given relating privacy agreements. So these customer database, they have a market value. Some people collect people's email addresses, sometimes 2 rupee or 1 rupee per email address, right? So you can, so these are intangible assets, but you cannot recognize your own goodwill, your own brands, you cannot recognize in your financial statement. So if you develop any production process, production secrets of production formula, new product concept, you can recognize as an intangible asset subject to that particular six criteria are met, right? So accordingly, we'll consider one example. So this is the only example we discussed. Thereafter, we are going to start our new topic, right? Okay, right. An entity has that develops a new production process, right? A business organization, they are in the process of developing a new production process. They have incurred 1 million, out of which 900,000 was incurred before 1st April, 1st January 2022. First, up to 1st January 2022, they have incurred 900,000. Then balance 1 million, balance 100,000, they have incurred between 1st January 2022 to 31st January 2023, 2022, right? Let's assume our year start from 1st April 2021, ends 31st March 2022. During that particular financial year, 1 million incurred. Out of this 1 million, 9 million incurred, right? As on 1st January 2022. So balance 100,000 incur කළත් next 3 months වලදී financial එකේ අන්තිම 3 months වලදී another 100,000 incurred කරලා තිනවා. All together 1 million incurred. 1 million incurred on what? 1 million incurred on a production process. So ඔයාලා දන්නවා new production process එකක් වෙනුවෙන් new product concept එකක් වෙනුවෙන් production process එකක් වෙනුවෙන් 1 million incur කරලා තිනවා. දැන් අපිට දැනනවා මේ 1 million cost එක expense එකක්ද asset එකක්ද? ඔයාලා දන්නවා depending on your treatment P&L is going to be affected, right? Depending on your treatment, you cannot treat the way you want. You need to treat this particular um, development or research cost base according to accounting standard. According to accounting standard, you know, as per the accounting standards, right? Cost incurred up to the develop, right? Criteria, all criteria satisfied, including research and development costs, should be charged to P&L. You can start debiting the or recognizing or generating the intangible asset from the date all the criteria satisfied. So we are not sure about when they have set whether they have satisfied the criteria or not. If no criteria has been satisfied, all 1 million PNL debit. So we'll read the rest of the part. Entity was able to demonstrate, right? Entity was able to demonstrate or sure or the ensure that the production process met the criteria for recognizing of intangible asset on 1st April to 1st January 2022. Right. This is the date they have satisfied all the criteria. Right. According, right. They have been engaging in developing the production process. Right. Up to 1st January 2022, they have incurred 900,000 lamai. And definitely cost incurred prior to this particular criteria meeting date should be charged to PNL. Out of 1 million, 900,000 should be charged to PNL. Right? Right? From this point, after this point, that means during 1st January 2022, and as far as 30 financial year ending 31st December, 31st March 2022, during that three months period, they have incurred balance 100,000. That 100,000 lamai can be debited to intangible asset account. Hari. It was another 2 million. Another 2 billion was incurred in relation to the production process in the year ending 31st March 2023. Can I make 2022 31st March වලින් පස්සේ එළඹෙන ළමයි financial year ending 31st March 2023 නේ. During the following financial year, they have incurred additional 2 million. What you can do? Can you debit this 2 million to PNL or intangible asset? This 2 million can be debited to intangible asset because already criteria has been satisfied. Right? So we'll see what is the requirement. Identify the cost of production process at the end of 31st March 2022. මෙතන financial year දෙකක් තියෙනවා. First, right? At the end of 31st March 2022, it relates to this 1 million. They have incurred 1 million during the year ended 31st March 2022. A 1 million වලින් 900,000 incurred කරේ before satisfying the criteria. Before satisfying all the 6 criteria. That 900,000 bank credit, P&L debit. Once all the criteria are satisfied during the next 3 months, before the end of the financial year, they have incurred additional 100,000. That 100,000 bank credit your intangible asset account debit. Okay. Then at the end of the reporting period, 900,000 charge to PNL, 100,000 you have debited to your intangible asset account. That intangible asset will be appeared in your balance sheet at the end of year 31st March 2022. Intangible asset balance should be 100,000. Then you start next financial year ending 31st March 2023. During that financial year, on the same production process, they have incurred additional 2 million. Right? Are you going to debit the PNL? No. This 2 million, you are now sure you are developing a successful product concept or production process. This 2 million, right? Don't charge to PNL and suffer your PNL. Right? This 2 million will definitely generate future economic benefits. This 2 million bank credit your intangible asset account debit. Already your intangible asset account has a brought forward balance of 100,000. To that 100,000 intangible asset account, this 2 million should be debited. So intangible asset account will be increased to 2.1 million. Okay. So that is the answer, right? So you can see this is one financial year. I'm illustrating the same scenario. This is the one financial year starting from 31st March. It is obvious financial year ending 31st March 2022 start 1st April 31st March. Okay, 1st April 2021. මෙතන අපි financial year begin වෙන්නේ. Start වෙන්නේ during the period scenario කියනවා during the period 1 million incurred කියලා. 1 million incurred. Now 1 million incurred kara became 900,000 incurred before 1st January 2022. That is the point. All the criteria satisfied. Out of 1 million, rest of the 100,000 satisfied. After criterion satisfied, right? Rest of the 100,000 incurred after satisfying all the criterion. So as far as this financial year is concerned, as far as this financial year is concerned, 1 million incurred for the production process, 900,000 prior to the satisfaction date, I mean criterion fulfillment date, 100,000 after. So 900,000 charged to PNL. This should be charged to PNL. This should be debited with the intangible asset. Right. Thereafter, during the right, you are still developing your production process. Next year also you are continuing developing your production process. Next year incurred additional 1 million. What will you do? Right. Next year this intangible asset debit. Next year incurred additional 2 million. You have already satisfied your condition. So this 2 million also can be debited to your intangible asset account. එනම් intangible asset එකේ 2020 2023 වල intangible asset account එකේ open balance එකක් තියෙනවා. Intangible asset open balance එකක් තියෙනවා brought forward from the prior period. How much? 100,000 open balance එකක් තියෙනවා. Right? Brought forward. Balance brought forward. Right? During the period 1 million incurred. මේකට double වෙන්න පුළුවන් තමයි bank credit intangible asset debit 2 million. Right? Cash or bank. Right? End of the period, you can balance of intangible asset account. So balance carried down 2,100. So this will be appeared in your statement of financial position as an intangible asset. There's a separate line item under non-current asset. Non-current asset you have property, plant and equipment, investment properties, right of use asset, intangible assets, right? You have. Right. That's it, Lamai. With this, uh, we ends the right discussion on intangible asset. There are some additional concept. For example, these initially, right, you recognize and measure, right? After, right, let's say fulfill, right, let's say subsequently how to measure. Now, intangible asset balance here after 2.1 million. Production process development is over. Thereafter, how to treat to this, right? Subsequent measurement, you can go either cost model or, right, revaluation model. So I'm not going to discuss that part. If, right, you can leisurely read the part. Up to this level we'll discuss because we are running behind time. So basically, we discussing treatment for intangible asset. If acquired from a third party, bank credit, intangible asset debit, and it should be amortized over the useful life, or else it will intangible asset can be acquired by your business combination, right? Then it will come to your financial statement, or else this intangible asset can be acquired by way of government grant. Then how to treat, and importantly, how to treat for research and development costs. Finally, research costs always start to P&L. Development costs, if asked, what is the treatment, right? If you ask a question or let's say question requires you to discuss the accounting treatment for research and development. Prashna. Discuss the accounting treatment for research and development according to LK 13.6. Right? So what is treatment? You can say according to case 36. Research costs, all the costs you incur in generating with respect to generating intangible assets during the research phase, all the costs should be charged to PN. That is very clear. Then with respect to the development cost or cost incurred during the development phase, you can say cost incurred during the development phase, right, can be recognized as an intangible assets provided all the six criteria satisfied. එතකොට criteria ටික අපි සඳහන් කරා technical feasibility එක තියෙන්න ඕන. ඒ කියන්නේ production let's assume නම් production formula එක identify කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ. production formula එක invent කරාට වැඩක් නැහැ. ඒක product ලෙස develop කිරීමට සඳහා technology එක අපිට නැත්නම් formula එක develop කරා product එක develop කරන්න technology නැහැ. So we need to ensure whether we have the required technology. And other thing, we invented. We invented the formula, secret formula we invented. We have the technical feasibility. But due to some other reason, business or the management has no intention to develop the product and sell it. If the management has no intention to go beyond that point, then you can't. Management must have the intention to complete and sell it. Sometimes due to some other reason, you undertook the research, invented the valuable things, but due to some other reason, due to sometimes strategic reason or some other, due to some other reason, management is not going to go ahead. Then no intention to develop now, right? It is you can't. So you need to ensure management has the intention to develop further. Ability to use or sell. So once the product is developed, you should be able to either use that particular product for your business operation and to enhance your productivity or save the cost or to sell to others. If there's no way of using the product by yourself or if there's no way of sell it to outsiders, then that means it is useless. So you should have the ability to either use your intangible asset by yourself to support your production process or to sell to outsiders. ඒක තියෙන්න ඕන. Right? Then existence of market. We should have the market. Market එකක් තියෙනවා අපේ product එක. Product එක market එක නැත්නම් මේ what you spend on this research and developments will be in vain. So no future benefit can be expected. Availability of resources. මේ ඉන්වෙන්ට් කරපු ෆෝමියුලා එක ඩෙවලොප් කරලා ප්‍රොඩක්ට් එකක් ලෙස මාකට් එකේ දාන්න දෙමින් සදා අවශ්‍ය කරන රිසෝසස් අපිට තියෙන්න ඕන. Right? Let's say we need to for you to transfer this production concept into product. Let's say if you need huge investment, right? Factory එකක් හදන්න ඒ production formula එක දාලා factory හදන්න 5 billion ඕන. Companies cash නැහැ, required funds නැහැ. ඒකට අදාළ machines ලංකාවේ නැහැ. Right? Let's say COVID vaccine, we need to produce and store under minus 30 degrees Celsius. හරි product එක හදන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි හදපු ගාමම minus 30 degrees Celsius අපි store කරන්න. අපිට ඒක technology නැහැ. එහෙම එවැනි machines asset ගන්න අපිට resources නැත්නම් right? වාගේ innovation එකකින් commercial value එකක් නැහැ. So we need to satisfy all the conditions. Once all the conditions satisfied තමයි අපි start කරන්න පටන් ගන්නෙ. ඊට පස්සේ any cost incurred to the research development of intangible asset can be keep debited. So that's it ළමයි. හරි? Okay. එහෙනම් basically internally generated intangible assets, right? During the research period, research phase, P&L chart. Development phase can be debited to intangible asset provided all the conditions satisfy වෙනවා. හරි? මේක January satisfy වුණා. Okay. මේක February satisfy වුණා. මේක March satisfy වුණා. All the conditions satisfy වුණා September නම් September වලින් පස්සේ තමයි you can start debiting your intangible asset. හරි. ඊට කලින් P&L charge කරපු ටික ආපහු reverse කරලා intangible asset ගුණට දාන්න බෑ. It is not allowed, right? That's it. So with this, we finished discussing standard on intangible asset, right? We will now move on to our next topic,